Hi, and welcome to injeb, a 4-week open online course on human reproduction, natural journey towards fertility, and reproductive biology with a hint of education about intimacy. The first week is about the natural reproductive cycle. At the end of this week, you should be able to understand the structure and function of female and male reproductive systems, explain how hormones regulate the menstrual cycle and fertility, describe the process of fertilization and early pregnancy, and finally use diagrams to identify key reproductive organs and processes. Today we'll talk in Module 2 about the menstrual cycle. At the end of this module, you should be able to outline the phases of the menstrual cycle and explain hormonal changes and their effect on fertility. So, the menstrual cycle has several phases. The first one is a menstruation. It's the time when women have their menses and thus lose some bloody discharge from their vagina. It can take up to 7 days. This menstrual phase starts the follicular phase when the eggs start to grow within the ovaries. The follicular phase takes up to 12 days, including the menses. It is followed by ovulation, and then the cycle is ended with the luteal phase that is fixed with 14 days, usually. First, let's talk about the follicular phase. So the follicular phase includes the menses and the follicular growth until a mature egg is ready to be expelled from the ovaries into the fallopian tube. Due to hormonal changes and especially a peak level of luteinizing hormone, ovulation will happen and the egg is thrown from the ovary into the fallopian tube. After ovulation, the ovaries produce progesterone that is responsible of creating a favorable climate for a pregnancy to happen and to grow within the uterus. So the menstrual cycle has not only changes within the inner layer of the uterus, that is called the endometrium, but it's also associated with changes within the ovaries, changes in hormones, and changes in body temperature. There is a slight elevation in temperature around the ovulation phase, and this elevation persists throughout the luteal phase. During the follicular phase, estrogen levels are at their peak, progesterone levels are very high, and around ovulation, we have a peak of luteinizing hormones and a smaller peak of follicle stimulating hormone. During the luteal phase, we have a higher level of progesterone that is maintained throughout the luteal phase, and it's the decrease in progesterone that is responsible for menstruation. If a pregnancy happens, the levels of progesterone stay high and no menstruation happens. So during the follicular phase, the brain will send messages to the ovaries and mainly the follicles to produce estradiol. This estradiol will stimulate the inner layer of the uterus to prepare for potential pregnancy. So the ovarian hormone, which is estrogen, will affect the follicle production. Then ovulation happens, and it's the peak or highest levels of LH that will trigger the ovulation mechanism and throw the mature oocytes in the fallopian tubes. The follicle will still produce estradiol that will help for the egg to implant in the uterus. During the luteal phase, we have lower levels of FSH and LH, and it's gonna be mainly the ovaries with the corpus luteum, which is the follicle that produced the egg, that will start producing progesterone and lower dosages of estradiol, and this will help the uterus to maintain its preparation levels to get the ovaries. So, to conclude, follicular phase is the phase for egg growth under the production of estrogen. Ovulation happens and is triggered by an LH surge that will lead to the egg release. The luteal phase is driven by progesterone to increase the egg implantation chances. Menstruation signs the restart of the menstrual cycle. It also signs the absence of pregnancy. Hormones are key regulators in the menstrual cycle, and fertility is linked to timing, as fertility is associated with the release of the egg and its implantation. Thank you for watching this second module of the first week of injeb, a 4-week open online course about fertility, journey, intimacy, and reproduction.